Now, honestly, I don't know whether to classify this as jealousy or, just a desire to change from a certain situation. But apparently, Jeff Bezos is planning to fly into space on July the 20th. And yes, I know there's nothing jealous sounding about that. But my issue with the whole jealousy bit of it is the fact that there has been more than 41,000 people who have been signing petitions to stop Jeff Bezos from returning to Earth after he goes into space. Because, I don't know, they're jealous of the fact that he's the richest man in the world. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole idea of people having an issue with him and thinking that him staying in space will actually fix things and make things better. Because, yes, I get it. He won't be the richest man on planet Earth after he leaves and he goes and stays in space. But now imagine he's gonna be the richest man in space.
Get ready for the battle of the sexes.
Like, how does that make things any better? Like, I can get that, yes, he won't be the richest man on planet Earth at the time. But now if he ends up going into space and he finds that there's no other form of life, he's technically gonna be the richest man in space and in the fucking universe as far as we know it. Like, who's ready to give him that moniker on top of being the richest person on planet Earth? Like, how is it that people are so jealous that they forget to actually think a little bit? Like, if this guy ends up being considered the richest man in the known universe, like, that just makes things even worse. Because on top of being the richest man that's gone as far and as wide as he has, at least as far as we know of, not that we know if Mansa Musa actually went to space or some shit, like, this guy will add the moniker of the richest man who has ever been to space. Like, he'll have beaten Elon Musk on that. And last we had checked, we had sent like a dog and a bunch of monkeys the other time. Like, them animals and the likes of Neil Armstrong and every other astronaut that's actually gone to space will technically be classified as, some of the people who've managed to go to space. And, technically, if you include their wealth, you could say that they are some of the richest people to go to space. But now you add Jeff Bezos that, and he automatically gives them a landslide. And, he ends up being one of the richest people in space. And imagine if he ends up going and actually staying in Mars, and then you find Amazon Mars, or I don't know, probably he'll call it something like, I don't know, Red Moon Shopping or some shit. So either way, it's not like we're actually going to benefit by him staying out in space. Like, we'd rather keep him on planet Earth, because even imagine if worse still, he goes out to space and he dies, and he probably put out his will and he left everything to a dog. Kind of like that German woman from back in the day. So at the end of the day, we end up not only having the richest man in the world dying in space, but the richest living thing on the planet actually being a dog. Like, how the hell is that going to be even better for the rest of us? Like, I can get the whole disproportionate money thing, but at the end of the day, making sure he goes and stays in space just works to our disbenefit. So either way, I feel as though these 41,000 people are lacking some level of IQ. And because of that, unfortunately, I cannot continue dealing with some of their matters. But anyways, that being said, we do have a podcast to do, and fortunately it does not work towards the disbenefit of Jeff Bezos or the entire planet. So we should probably start. So, welcome to Breaktime on Westside, your number one breaktime podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is a man who once believed in running his mouth as a form of cardio. He's a man who likes his women the same exact way he likes his yogurt. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. The show is Battle of the Sexes, our weekly love, sex, and relationships show, where I get to say stuff, people get to disagree, some sense is made somewhere, but usually no one ever comes to the universal conclusion that I'm right. But either way, I still continue making episodes. And for some reason, some of y'all keep coming back to actually listen. And I appreciate you immensely for that. 79 episodes down and we are still going strong. So thank you to each and every one of you that listens, and thank you to you who comes in as a new listener if it's your first time. As always, we always appreciate you. Come in, subscribe from whichever platform that you're using, and join in for the fun and ride. We also have Tweet Street that comes on Friday, and we'd love it if you actually listened as well. And if you do feel like giving any feedback, then On Twitter, it is at Bagaka the D. On Facebook, it is at Breaktime on Westside, the Facebook page. And on Instagram, you can slide into the DMs of at Breaktime on Westside. And I will take the DMs and I will attend to them accordingly. Now, pleasantries aside, I do want to get into the main topic of today, which is actually kind of entertaining for me. But before I do get to that, there's this video that somebody sent me. Now, it was a clip that was taken from YouTube, and it actually came from a very interesting man known as Kevin Samuels. I'm sure for quite a number of you, he needs no introduction. You already know him. And for those of y'all that don't know him, he's one of those guys that's known for calling women out on their bullshit and also calling men out on their bullshit. It's just that he's mostly known for calling women out on their bullshit. Now, the banner of the video says, Kevin Samuels says men should pay for everything. And it's asking people if they agree or they disagree. And to kind of put things into context, I'm going to play it here for you. Or at least I'm going to play the audio for you, because that's really what's more important. And then we're going to look into it, because I feel as though this is something that should be disagreed with by the modern man of today. But then again, the headline itself could actually be lying to us, or, maybe he has a good justification for it. So let me just play it and then we can break it down.
But you don't want to put the work in. You don't want to build the resume. You don't want to actually have it where it counts to have the real leverage. You want her to respect your masculinity and your manhood because you have a penis and an XY chromosome. It don't work that way. Women respect resources. You can't check a bitch because you got nothing to check with. The only place you dominate is in the bedroom. Dominate on the balance sheet. Dominate on your wallet, which is your accomplishments. Any woman that you choose to deal with, her money should be no good with you if you're 100% man. You pay everything. Why? Because it keeps her in her feminine when she's with you. I don't give a shit. The women I deal with.
Okay, interesting statements that have been put out there. Do I agree with everything he said? Almost. And, the interesting part is, people chose to focus on the literal 1.5 second where he said that you pay everything. Pretty interesting. Now, while I can say that yes, what he did say wasn't entirely something that I'd agree with, I'd argue that the context of what he was saying is probably what I should be paying more attention to. Because here's the thing, I have watched a bunch of interviews that Kevin Samuels has been a part of, and the one thing that he said very well was that because of the clips that have been circulating the internet of him talking and, supposedly dressing down a couple of ladies here and there, it's made him look as though he hates women. Yet, actually, contrary to popular belief, he actually doesn't. And contrary to what people usually think after watching a small clip, he actually does give pretty solid advice. He actually says some very true, very sensible things. And from the interviews that I did watch of him and I listened to him, he actually seems to be a pretty sensible person. So for me to just take this clip and say, no, he's talking shit, he's not saying it right, I think that's jumping the gun a little too early. And I think that's kind of why people have this very bad perception of him, yet he doesn't necessarily say things that are bad. It's just that, the most trendworthy clips of his videos are the ones that are taken and are put up, and those are the ones where the guy goes off. So in that respect, I'd probably want to kind of look at the context of what he said instead of just focusing on the part where he's saying that men should pay for everything. And when you kind of listen to the entire clip again, feel free to go back and listen to it again, you can kind of hear that what he's saying isn't primarily that men should be paying for everything, but rather guys today need to stop putting a lot of value in their sex skills, in their dick game, or just in their dick in general, and need to start putting it towards something that actually has value of its own. Something like a balance sheet, and actually making yourself resourceful, putting some money in your pockets and actually creating some wealth. Because the first thing he starts by saying on that clip, much as it's just the clip, the first thing that he starts by saying is, you don't want to put the work in, you don't want to put the work and actually build the resume. And yes, I might have paraphrased 1 or 2 words there, but in reality, while some people might be thinking that this is a clip where he says, women should be having their bills paid by men, this is a clip of him just openly stating that you need to be resourceful as a man, that you cannot be putting your value on dick game, your value in your ability to have sex, and your value simply because you're male, which is something that woke-activists even agree on. So in a sense, this guy is actually saying complete truth, because personally I feel the exact same way. I honestly do not think that a man needs to be given command and dominance simply because he's a man. I think he needs to earn it. I think he needs to take charge. I think he needs to actually, develop his own sense of command. It's just that for him, he's talking about being resourceful and he's using it as a way to create dominance in the relationship, which is something that I know is actually true. Having more money does create a certain level of dominance in a relationship, regardless of the gender. So asking guys to actually put the work in and actually make sure that they make the money is actually rightly done. Because it's the exact same way us guys came out very strongly to say that, a shorty cannot just be her vagina and her looks. She needs to carry more. She needs to bring more to the table. 2021 phrase of the year. And you will find that as many guys as were saying that, even the women came in and they were like, we have to offer more than just our bodies. You have to offer more than simply just good pussy and, possibly beautiful looks that can get lost, I don't know, when you wash your face or, with age and shit. And when you try to put that in the guy's perspective, it works the exact same way. Because you have to create your value and you cannot just base it all off on having good dick. Like, it is not something that will actually give you a lot of value. You have to create real value from something tangible. Be resourceful and shit. So at the end of the day, the only thing that I can say here is I actually agree with the guy. But anyways, we should probably move on to our main topic. And speaking of dick and dick game, we do need to talk about something a little bit here. Now, I remember how back in the day, I even think on one of the episodes, I was talking about how guys almost never ever pick things that they see in porn and actually translate them to real life. And I came out strongly and I was like, guys don't even do that. Like, we know the difference between porn and real life. And I made sure I pushed the idea home and I said, a guy might not know how to do shit. A guy might try some shit, because he's being creative and shit. And, he won't be picking things from porn. And after reading a certain article this past week, I have to come here and say that I am eating humble pie. And I admit it, there are quite a number of guys that actually pick up quite a lot from porn. Now, usually whatever it is that we pick up from porn is usually supposed to be the good stuff. But there are certain symptoms that show that there are guys that actually pick the wrong things from porn and do not actually kind of cross-check with someone else whether some of those things are supposed to be done to their woman or man, whoever it is that you like banging. So I have to start by saying that for every single person that is listening to this, please remember, the porn that you consume is not real life, it's mostly acted, and whatever it is that they do there, you can probably do it. It's just that it's not all going to work for you and it's not all for your benefit. Sometimes it's just good for the camera. But that aside, I do want to state that there were a couple of examples that were brought onto the article that I was reading, because I even have it with me right now. And it's examples of a dead giveaway that a man watches too much porn, and it's one of those giveaways that you get when he's in bed with you. Now, unfortunately, I kind of had to read through the article. I ended up laughing at most of them, so I can't laugh at them right now. Plus, my laughter is a very silent one. So I'm just going to read them out for you. If you feel like laughing, please feel free to pause and just laugh at it. But ideally here, I'm just going to be providing commentary, and I'm going to be agreeing and disagreeing with a bunch of things here and there. So, how about we get into it? So, first person said, the first time we had sex, he immediately pulled out and came all over my face, blinding me. He didn't even ask. Guess I should have worn goggles if I'd have known I was going for a swim. And, well, yeah, we probably kind of have to take an L for this as guys. Like, I feel as though people usually think the whole nutting on someone's face is a good thing, yet it probably isn't. Not unless if she asks for it. And honestly, like the only time when I can say that nutting on a woman's face is a good thing is because, I know, semen is actually good for a woman's face, and it has good cosmetic properties and shit. And if the babe is called Meg and you nut in her face, you can call it a nutmeg and it'll be good for a joke. But besides that, I don't see anywhere where it is guys should actually do that. But anyways, next one, she said fingering like he's trying to manually rewind a VHS tape. Fellas, I don't know if it's just me that usually knows this, but usually if you want to eat out a babe, sometimes it's a lot better to just ask her how to do it, because I honestly don't even think I can teach it well enough. And if anything, the same porn sites that you're actually using to consume the porn that makes you want to do such shit actually might have the video to it. Because funny enough, and this is something that a friend of mine was telling me, if you go to Pornhub and you actually search for how to eat out a babe, you're actually gonna get videos that will actually give you very good instructions on how to do it. And one of them is very long. It's like an hour and something. Don't ask me how I know that. But while you might think fingering is actually going to be a good thing for a babe, it probably isn't. There's quite a number of them that actually don't even want your fingers close to that. The most that they'd even take is your mouth. Some of them don't even want your fingers or your mouth, just the dick. So please, go learn and then actually try. Or ask. Just ask. Alright, so on to the next one. One of my friends had her vagina tapped because the guy saw it in porn. Kinda like a drum. She definitely did not enjoy it. Okay. First of all, I kinda need to defend the fellas over here. Cause some of us have this running statement that we usually have as guys where it's like, oh, if you're with a babe and you tap the pussy a little bit, you could restore factory settings and you can go and hit it all nice and shit. And I know, probably is a joke more than anything. And I obviously can't confirm this because I don't have the right apparatus to actually know it. And by that, I'm not talking about the lack of hands. I have those. But the thing is, usually there's nothing wrong with just giving it a nice light tap. Just kind of, even for comedic relief, I guess. But usually you kind of have to do that after you've done something. Normally after, say, you've eaten her out. Otherwise, if say you're making out and y'all are naked in bed and shit, and then all of a sudden your hands going down there instead of holding her and shit, I don't know, it kind of feels a little misplaced. It's kind of like having a clown suit in a party full of people with actual suits. It's not bad, it's just sort of misplaced a little bit, which is why I'd probably say don't tap hardly. Just make sure you tap lightly, use the 2 middle fingers that you have, and make sure you do it after you've eaten her out and not before. And it's usually just for your own comedic relief. Anyways, next one says, when you give him a blowjob and he asks if you came. Okay, maybe I kind of did dig this hole for myself because I can't even defend anyone on this one. It seems a little bit odd that a guy would think this, but then again, most guys don't exactly know how a woman's body functions. Hell, even I don't. The only thing that I do know is you can get off on it, but it's not like you will orgasm from it. Not unless if you're touching yourself while you're giving him fellatio. So in a sense, I don't know, some fellas need help though. Anyways, on to the next one. And it says, way too many men think anal can just happen and be tried out of the blue. If you aren't willing to take the time and care about someone's well-being, just go masturbate by yourself. Okay, fellas, let me just say this because I'm sure there's quite a number of you that don't actually know this. It's not like the anus works the same exact way the vagina does, because the vagina kind of self-lubricates, it can open up, close up, and it's been primed for a dick going in there, so it can work that way, and you don't need to lube up and everything. But when it comes to something like anal, there has to be preparation behind it. Sometimes somebody even has to go for an enema for just for the anus to be clean and shit. They usually have to do prepping, and there's actually something called anal training, which actually kind of prepares the person that is receiving it so that they can actually take whatever it is that they'll be getting from the back. So actually thinking that you can just stick it in and it'll work is a bit of an overreach, and I can understand there's a lot of guys that don't know this, which is why I will say, please do not attempt anal, not unless if the babe tells you to. You guys have a lot of lube and there's some form of training that was done. Just saying. On to the next one. Calls you by a porn star's name on accident. Wow. Fellas, this one's even hard for me. Like, I can explain my way through a lot of things, but even this one's hard for me. Because I don't even know whether to call this an addiction level. I don't know whether to bring up the bit of emotional cheating. And, well, still, I'm even about to start asking myself why it is you're thinking of a porn star while you're banging somebody who's actually there. Because here's the thing, like, I don't mind it if a guy is, doing his Fiverr live, giving himself a hand, and he calls out a porn star's name because, in his head, when he's imagining it, shorty is calling out his name, he wants to call out her name, they can make noises as much as they want, provided it's not, disturbing anyone's peace, and, you can use it to nut. It's perfectly okay. But when you're actually having sex with somebody else, I don't know. Like, yes, I can get it. Maybe the sex isn't that good, so you have to fantasize something else. But I'd argue if the sex isn't good and you don't really care about the babe per se, then, you can just stop. I know it sounds like a very foreign concept for a lot of guys, but you can actually stop. Trust me. It's not too hard to do. You can actually stop. But beyond that, there's now the other issues that come in, because you're having a sexual experience with somebody else. Why not just do it with them, then go and jerk off using the porn star later? Like, are you really having sex, or are you using this person as some form of a human sex toy to kind of jerk yourself off? Because that's kind of what it seems like right now. And while that doesn't necessarily seem all that nice to the babe, you ended up calling out someone else's name. Like, I thought that's rule number 1 of sex not to do's for guys. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who read that book, but I'm hoping that I'm not the only one who did. So in a sense, I don't know, it does kind of feel a bit odd. But all in all, now that I know we're kind of out of time and everything, let me just say this. While you can watch porn and you can be entertained by it, please remember that it's only entertainment. It's not something that you can take something from and you can actually implement it in the real world and it'll come out well. It's kind of like an action movie. Like, the fight scenes look good and you can probably learn how to fight from there, but not unless if you're trained by an actual professional on how to do it. If you try implementing some of those moves, you're probably gonna get your ass handed to you, or you're probably just gonna end up injuring yourself thinking that you can jump and kick 2 people in the air and not come back down in quarter of a second. But anyways, that being said, ladies, I know quite a number of you go through similar things, with guys that probably watch a little bit too much porn, and I want to know some of those stories, even just for entertainment purposes, kind of the same way porn does it. So please hit me up, send that feedback, send me those stories. And fellas, if you have gone through some of these things, I hope you've learned your lesson. And if there's something that you feel you need to let off your chest so we can talk about, then you can send it to the DMs of @BreakTime on Westside on Instagram. On Facebook, you can send them to @BreakTime on Westside. And on Twitter, you can slide into my personal DMs, which is @BagakaTheD. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end. And if you're listening on Castbox, feel free to drop your thoughts and comments below, and I will attend to them accordingly. And I will catch you guys on the next break.